Good day to you. This is Galactic bringing you a special brief. In YouTube language, this would be called a short, but in my current framework, I just am keeping these videos under 10 minutes. They load much faster. I have a very slow connection. Now, I want you to know we're in the age where you can see I purposely left these papers, which is a form of paraphernalia. Get a good look at that. That is, in fact, the Zigzag Man. And now he has a barcode that's been around for a long time, but I am so old that I can remember that the barcode was even in Mad Magazine, which is a magazine run by American immigrants of a certain kind, which my father and I agree are the greatest people on earth. You know why? They can make us laugh with Mad Magazine, so see, Israelis are okay. Now, this is from Arrakis, a planet invented by Herbert Dune. It's not Herbert Dune. It's, in fact, I believe his last name is Herbert. Anyway, he wrote Dune, which was made into a crappy movie, but I didn't think it was entirely crappy. It was just depressing. Talk about noir. It was space noir. Anyway, that's our little blurb. I'm keeping this in under 10 minutes, and I'm really challenging myself by letting, this isn't science, what I'm doing. And this is not worm poop. So what we're going to do today is fulfill another promise. I'm in promise-fulfilling mode. I showed you where time lives, so now you know it geometrically. That's something the physicists would sorely love to know. We're going to talk about hypersphericity, and I alluded to this more than once in my 700 lecture series over the past 2.5 years. Now, I have released one of my early videos, and it got a good response. I was very pleased to see that people enjoyed seeing the way I looked over 2 years ago when I first began producing on YouTube. But hypersphericity is at the other end of the spectrum. It's where everything ends. Because it crosses the transcendental threshold. So in order to approach this delicate topic of hypersphericity, I will be treating this in a philosophical framework. In other words, stepping outside the box, and we're all going to act as if we were God Almighty Himself. And He encourages us to do this, as long as we are not taking ourselves seriously, which, of course, we're not. We're soliciting the universe for instruction. But to get the highest instruction, you have to unify yourself with universal will, and that simply has nothing to do with science. Because it's will. It's the will of the universe that we're doing this. And, which is the beginning of a philosophical discussion, not scientific. But that's the last of our philosophical framework. Now we enter the realm of strict, very strict, rigorously, strictly controlled, rational logic using a mathematical inductive method. This has all been proved to work if I can prove that it does work in this case. And that's called a scientific proof, which is absolutely required. But we don't have time for all the proofs. Those are in the previous, about 600 out of those 700 lectures are all critical information. I don't do this just to hear myself talk. It is hot here, so forgive the glug-de-glug. We're now approaching the 4.5 minute mark, and so we have 5.5 minutes to fully understand hypersphericity. Well, you understand the sphere has the number 1 on the surface. That's the new number system that the universe uses. The spherically composed numbers are 2-component numbers akin to complex, but both of them are rational. The surface of the sphere is 1 proportion 1, that is the fractional number system defined, and the 2 numbers that split and then are used as one number are all product numbers that multiply to 1. So the central number, equivalent to 0 but is not 0. 0 is inside the sphere. So 0 is not lost. In fact, since there is a null point, which is imaginary at the center of the sphere, you can draw a line through it, and that is exactly how you're going to get your linear numbers back out of spheric space, exactly equivalently to the way the conjugate algebra translator gets linear numbers back out of complex space. So this is directly analogous in its translation function to that system of complex numbers, but these are two rational numbers. So to finish the thought, what is called the Archimedean, which for linear space is 0, the Archimedean of proportional space, which is most often called multiplicative space, and that is correct, although it's an incomplete definition, it indicates one side of an inverse. Multiplication and division are closed on the sphere for 1, exactly equivalent to saying that the linear number system is closed for add on the line. The spherical number system is closed for proportionality. That's division, multiplication. That is what proportionality means. It's that relation. What is that relation geometrically? It's orthogonal, which is the major breakthrough that I made. That is the essence of my discovery in geometry, is that the second number system, which is a discovery in itself, has a two-component rational number system that's based on unity, and that turns out to be the exact mathematics of the universe. Given that the sphere is now real, substantiating 20th century science, which discovered the sphere at all scales. It discovered the sphere at the two critical scales. The James Webb Telescope has confirmed that the universe is indeed visibly infinite, and that means it's got to be mathematized because it's real. The James Webb Telescope has confirmed this is on an asymptotic curve of proof, which will never achieve closure because that's the nature of an asymptotic curve, is it never achieves 0. It just glides in forever. So there will always be doubt. There is no absolute closure in the universe. A moment's thought should convince you of that, and that's the spooky aspect of hypersphericity. The edge of the universe is the edge of the spheric universe. Beyond it is a land that is imaginary. And it turns out that this word imaginary has extraordinary geometric significance. And here's why I've attained closure on that infinity mathematically simply by employing these numbers. Because here's what happens. The surface of the sphere is 1, but it's 1 proportion 1. So that divides on day 2 of Conway's binary surreal tree into 1/2 2. Why? Because 1/2 is less than 1 and 2 is greater than 1. On day 1 of the binary tree, the double 0 splits to 1 on a polaric. That's 180 degrees. On day 2, the 1 splits orthogonally. And that's the discovery that I made in 2022 that initiated this YouTube series. This YouTube series is, you could say, originally solely devoted to that discovery. For fairly obvious reasons, I'm giving you the outer product reason. It's because the imaginary space that's beyond the edge of the visible universe, which is now known to be finite and therefore computable, on an asymptotic curve of your number metric, which you can make as precise as you want, by making the radius of that sphere the Planck length, you solve the quantum paradox. And I wasn't able to complete the entire sentence, but here is the final statement. The imaginary center, which is inside the sphere, is perpendicular with the edge. and that is transcendental. We'll be right back.